From brutal block passes to full-blown brawls, psychological warfare to personal threats. Today, we're diving into the most savage rivalries in motocross history, starting with the corporate-backed Golden Boy and a self-declared villain leading a motocross militia. In the mid-90s, the world of freestyle motocross witnessed the birth of a rivalry that would not only captivate audiences, but fundamentally alter the sport's trajectory. Brian Deegan and Travis Pastrana emerged as opposing forces in this high-flying spectacle, their contrasting personas creating the perfect storm of antagonism and innovation. The rivalry stemmed from genuine ideological differences. Deegan crafted himself as the sport's anti-hero, establishing Metal Militia as the embodiment of rebellion. Pastrana represented the opposite, an approachable figure embraced by mainstream sponsors. Deegan articulated this division clearly.
I was like, okay, I'm representing the militia, and this is, we're the evil side, and we're all black and spikes, and Pastrana's the good guy, and he really was the goody two-shoe guy,
This pivotal moment exploded the sport's popularity, with crowds visibly splitting into passionate factions at events. The conflict intensified when Pastrana publicly accused Deegan of being the real sellout, claiming Deegan viewed freestyle primarily as a business opportunity.
He was calling me a sellout. Oh, look at this sellout. Yeah. Oh, thumbs up, goody two-shoes, straight A student. When he was really the sellout. He was the one trying to make money, and I was just the one having fun.
This accusation directly challenged Deegan's carefully built rebel image, transforming their professional competition into personal antagonism. At the time, Travis Pastrana had been meticulously preparing to debut a groundbreaking trick, the 360, a move that would redefine freestyle motocross and cement his reputation as the sport's technical genius. But before he could unveil it, Brian Deegan beat him to the punch. Without any warning, Deegan threw down the 360 at the X Games, landing it clean to a roar of disbelief and thunderous applause. It wasn't just a trick, it was a statement. Deegan had stolen Pastrana's moment, and in doing so, publicly challenged his dominance. ESPN called it the shot heard around the freestyle world, as the rivalry between the two riders crossed a line it would never return from. The hostility extended beyond competitions. The Metal Militia crew became known for intimidation and trash-talking directed at Pastrana's team, creating an atmosphere that organizers struggled to manage while maintaining audience engagement. ESPN's coverage brought this rivalry to mainstream audiences, often emphasizing the animosity while minimizing problematic confrontations. Sponsors capitalized on the tension, effectively monetizing their antagonistic relationship despite ethical concerns. This wasn't the first time Brian Deegan and Travis Pastrana tried to one-up each other. At the 1997 LA Coliseum Supercross, Deegan celebrated his win by performing the first ever ghost ride, jumping off his bike and letting it cross the finish line without him. An act that thrilled fans and set a new standard for motocross showmanship. 2 years later, Pastrana responded at the 1999 X Games in San Francisco by launching his bike off a ramp and into the bay after winning gold, a stunt that shocked officials and led to stricter competition policies. But there is one man who is known as being the most controversial rider in motocross history, and that, of course, is no other than Jason Lawrence. The 2008 battle between Lawrence and Ryan Dungey wasn't won with speed or skill, but through psychological warfare that forced the entire sport to question where competition ends and harassment begins. Unlike the physical dangers of freestyle stunts, Lawrence's approach exposed a different threat to competitors' well-being. Embracing his bad boy persona, Lawrence systematically targeted Dungey with calculated tactics. During a particularly memorable practice session at Glen Helen, Lawrence stalked Dungey for over 30 minutes. Riders and spectators watched in uncomfortable silence as Lawrence mimicked Dungey's every move, cutting dangerously close on jumps and corners. While not technically illegal, these moves were clearly designed to unsettle his more clean-cut rival. The manipulation escalated when Lawrence began making personal comments about Dungey's family. These attacks violated unwritten ethical codes respected by veterans of the sport. Things worsened when Lawrence's team spread rumors about Dungey's personal life in the pits. Other competitors criticized this behavior, feeling it tarnished motocross's reputation. Dungey later revealed the devastating impact.
I mean, he had me. He had me in his hands. Like, this guy could play with me, toy me around. It was pathetic.
This rare admission from a future champion showed how profoundly Lawrence's approach affected his mental state. The psychological toll nearly derailed Dungee's early career, though it ultimately fueled his later determination to transform the sports culture. The controversy peaked when Lawrence won the championship. Intense debates erupted throughout the motocross community. Was this legitimate strategy or unethical conduct deserving sanction? The AMA's rule changes following Lawrence's mind games represented just one chapter in motocross's ongoing struggle with ethical boundaries. A far more pivotal battle had unfolded years earlier when Jeremy McGrath, the undisputed king of Supercross with his jaw-dropping 72 wins, faced a young challenger named Ricky Carmichael, whose aggressive style would completely redefine the sport forever. McGrath had ruled the 1990s with technical precision and style, making Supercross look effortless with his smooth, calculated approach. When Carmichael emerged in the early 2000s, he brought with him a hard-charging style that threatened not just McGrath's reign, but the very standards of competition. The sport stood at a crossroads. Would finesse continue to dominate, or would raw aggression become the new standard? The tension between these competing philosophies reached its breaking point at the 2001 San Diego Supercross. Carmichael's relentless approach pushed existing norms beyond their limits, showcasing a ruthlessness that transformed the competitive landscape. McGrath, typically composed and professional, responded with uncharacteristic public criticism after the race, suggesting Carmichael was endangering competitors and compromising the sport's integrity. What followed was unprecedented. McGrath's team formally challenged Carmichael's riding tactics, while Carmichael's supporters argued he was evolving the sport. Officials found themselves arbitrating between legitimate racing moves and dangerous conduct. Their compromise, issuing warnings without formal penalties, satisfied neither side and intensified the conflict. Like a medieval king reluctantly surrendering his crown, McGrath eventually acknowledged the changing tide with stark honesty. That was honestly the night I learned that I ain't going to be winning no more. For fans who had witnessed McGrath's dominance for years, this confession carried the weight of an era's end. The sport they knew was transforming before their eyes. The controversy divided the industry. Some viewed Carmichael's aggressive approach as necessary evolution in a sport that had grown too comfortable, while others saw it as an ethical regression that prioritized winning over safety. As the dust settled on Carmichael and McGrath's era-defining clash, a far more volatile feud was already reaching its boiling point. The 2009 Las Vegas Supercross finale encapsulated everything that made the Reed-Stewart rivalry Motocross's most personal blood feud, a desperate last-corner pass attempt that nearly sent both champions careening into the barriers as Stewart protected his narrow points lead. This embodied the culmination of years of genuine hatred. Their animosity took root when James Stewart burst onto the scene as the fastest man on the planet, while Chad Reed watched sponsors and media flock to the younger phenom. Stewart's raw, electrifying speed contrasted sharply with Reed's calculating consistency, creating a philosophical battle that transformed ordinary races into psychological warfare. Physical confrontation became inevitable. At the 2010 Phoenix Supercross, Stewart clipped Reed's front wheel, sending both riders violently to the ground. As medical staff rushed to the scene, Reed responded by hurling his helmet directly at Stewart, vividly illustrating how competition had deteriorated into unbridled hostility. The incident shocked fans and raised serious questions about rider safety in the heat of such an explosive rivalry. The volatile tension escalated further at the 2009 Salt Lake City Supercross, when Stewart's teammate, Kyle Chisholm, deliberately interfered with Reed's race, a maneuver so blatant it resulted in one of the largest fines in AMA history. This incident exposed how their personal animosity had infected entire teams, with sportsmanship giving way to win-at-all-cost tactics that threatened the integrity of the sport. Officials scrambled to implement unprecedented rules, specifically targeting behaviors stemming from the Reed-Stewart conflict. The feud took an unexpected turn when Reed revealed receiving threatening letters containing racial slurs targeting Stewart. This external hatred temporarily united the bitter rivals in condemnation, highlighting how their very public antagonism had attracted the sport's worst elements. This momentary truce proved short-lived. By 2011's San Diego Supercross, rational judgment had completely abandoned Reed, who sacrificed his own championship position to execute a retaliatory block pass on Stewart. Officials quickly condemned this as retaliatory riding, with both riders losing valuable points in an exchange that demonstrated how their personal vendetta had superseded championship strategy, forever changing how fans perceived the boundaries of acceptable competition in motocross. The Reed-Stewart saga left motocross officials scrambling to contain a rivalry that had become physically dangerous. But the sport's next great battle would turn this dynamic completely upside down. Contrary to everything the motocross world had come to expect, Eli Tomac and Ken Roczen were about to prove that the most gripping battles didn't require genuine hatred or reckless endangerment. The 2017 Supercross season marked a turning point for the sport when Roczen suffered a devastating arm injury that nearly ended his career. Upon Roczen's eventual return to racing, both he and Tomac established an unspoken pact to compete fiercely without crossing into dangerous territory. With championship bonuses and sponsorship deals worth millions of dollars on the line at every race, the stakes couldn't be higher. Where previous rivals might have used these financial pressures as justification for aggressive tactics, Tomac and Roczen deliberately chose mutual respect over the scorched earth approach that defined earlier rivalries, like chess grandmasters focused on strategy rather than street fighters looking for knockouts. This commitment faced its ultimate test during the 2019 Daytona Supercross. As they thundered through the final lap, Tomac executed a tight inside pass on Roczen in the hairpin turn, their bikes mere inches apart. The crowd collectively held its breath, anticipating the collision that thankfully never came. Rather than erupting into retaliation or public accusations, both competitors calmly discussed the incident in post-race interviews, demonstrating a maturity that stood in stark contrast to the helmet-throwing confrontations of the past. Their influence is perhaps most evident in Tomac's own words. "Ken's my biggest rival, but that doesn't mean we need to hate each other or ride dangerously. We can push each other to be better without crossing lines that put either of us at risk." While Tomac and Roczen demonstrated that rivalries could exist within respectful boundaries, a new generation was about to show exactly how far competition could deteriorate when taken beyond the track. The conflict between Hayden Deegan and Julien Beaumaire represents the first major motocross rivalry to weaponize social media, transforming traditional competition into a digital battleground where words and posts could inflict damage more lasting than any on-track incident. Their antagonism originated during amateur careers, where background differences created natural tension. Deegan carried the weight of his father Brian's freestyle dynasty, while Beaumaire climbed from local tracks to factory support, a classic tale of perceived privilege versus perseverance that intensified as they entered professional competition. The Seattle Supercross became the flashpoint when Deegan's aggressive pass sent Beaumaire dangerously close to the barriers. Their post-race confrontation included a helmet slap violating conduct policies, resulting in fines. In interviews, Beaumaire offered measured responses. "I left the door open and he took a shot," while suggesting he had anticipated such aggression. What made this rivalry unprecedented was its rapid migration from track to social media. The digital warfare escalated when Beaumaire posted, "Address leak coming soon, #stay tuned," followed by sharing Deegan's private information online after he was arrested for reckless driving. Hayden's response, "He's putting my family at risk. This isn't about racing anymore," highlighted how the conflict had crossed a dangerous threshold. The racing community fractured in response. Forum threads exploded with some fans defending Deegan's aggressive riding as competitive necessity, while others condemned Beaumaire's decision to weaponize personal information. Meanwhile, competitors like Cole Davies were outperforming both feuding riders, earning the silent killer reputation among fans who recognized that while social media wars captured headlines, the most impressive performances were happening away from controversy's spotlight, a reminder that true excellence often speaks through results rather than retweets.